Manchester United, Manchester City is the only place to start. It's 2-0 win for City. So goals by Eric Bailly, an own goal in 7 minutes. That was the first one. And then Bernardo Silva getting the second just before half-time. 67% possession for City. 5 shots on target to United's 1. It's not very surprising, I don't think, what happened. We're going to hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Pep Guardiola. And first Roy Keane, because Roy Keane was on Sky Sports there reacting to Phil Foden saying after the game that Old Trafford is a tough place to go.
It felt worse. I think the goal in half-time, of course, game all over. City, different type of team to Liverpool. They were quite happy just to keep the ball, and they just toyed with United. Really, it's so poor. The difference in class, quality, decision-making, everything. It was, I know the old saying, it was men v boys, but United are so off it, it's unbelievable. You know, 4 dimensions there, it's a tough place to come. It's not. Ask Everton, ask Aston Villa, ask Liverpool. Teams have come here, they're getting a bit of joy now. I know United's away record over the last couple of seasons has been fantastic, but ultimately it's what you do at home that gives you that foundation to try and compete and go on and win trophies, because United still always have the quality even away from home. But their home form, their performance, the goal at half-time has killed it, you know. United just need to go in at half-time 1-0, regroup, try and do something. The second goal, it's game over. And United, I don't know what I'm going to say. It's just so poor. It's just so poor. And again, we go back to it. I look for characters. McTominay, Fred. McTominay and all, he's learned his trade. Fred is a midfield. These players aren't good enough for Manchester United. Defensively, even the first goal, I wasn't shocked when Bailly just sliced that into it. He's got that in him. He's erratic. He slices at things. But it was so comfortable for Man City. Foden's getting interviewed there after the game. The way I look at a player after the game, when you've played in a derby game, you should be drained, you should be exhausted, you should have no energy left. He's chatting there as if he just had a practice game.
Mark Lawrenson, not surprising.
No, not at all. And you would agree with everything that Roy said, most definitely. But, you know, the thing is, as well, John, is you know how Manchester City play. They play without a recognised striker, false number 9, call it what you will. So they just absolutely, totally dominate midfield. Therefore, they dominate the ball. Therefore, they dominate the game. But, you know, Manchester United sit there with 5 at the back and they're not doing anything. It's like, OK, so Wan-Bissaka pushes on a little bit and left-back pushes on a little bit. But the 3 centre-backs, you know, there's no need for 3 centre-backs. You can actually push 2 into midfield, almost like as a shield if you wanted, and just have 1 centre-back, because they don't have a centre-forward. And I honestly, you sit there watching it and we go, wow, about Manchester City, and quite rightly, the passing, the pace of the passing, the movement, absolutely brilliant. But it looked like they had 14 men to Manchester United's 11. And I really don't get it. I mean, I don't know what the brains trust that Manchester United is doing there, looking at these games. You've got to chuck loads of people into midfield to stop Manchester City having the ball. I mean, I just think it really is that simple. If you just sit back, got a line of 3, sometimes 5, and you think, oh, we're all right, because they're just going to play across us and all that. But they do for a while, then bang, somebody will see an opening, and there's such good passes and such good movement. And they're in. In all honesty, in the first half, it could have been 4 or 5, quite easily. And you just wonder where Manchester United go from there after today's performance. Second half as well was just the same. And while the plaudits obviously will go to Manchester City, Manchester United just looking a complete and utter mess. And I think that, you know, I said the other day that after forget about the performance at Tottenham, which was good, it would be more of a performance or looking at the performance against Atalanta that would be the one, because obviously completely different, and Tottenham were awful last Sunday or Saturday night, whenever it was. And indeed it was. Atalanta, I mean, you know, they scraped a 2-2 last-minute equaliser, Manchester United. And the problems are still there. And what they do now, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously International Week, isn't it, next weekend? That might be really bad for the manager, because that means that the management behind the scenes at Manchester United, I'm not talking about the football side now, obviously, your Edward Woodward and those kind of people will no doubt be having a chat and saying, well, if we're going to do it and say thanks but no thanks, this is maybe the time, because you've got 2 weeks to get a new manager in because of the international weekend. International weekend.
Won't be Antonio Conte anyway.
Antonio Conte, they missed the ball with him. Yeah.
Eddie in Limerick's been in touch. 53106. Old Trafford has become a place for footballers to make loads of money for not trying to play anymore. Wasn't Ollie a fan, says Michael in Louth, but I think he's way out of his depth now, playing inconsistent players like Sean Maguire week in, week out. How does that make for a happy dressing room? His loyalty to certain players has cost him his job. Well, his job is still there. But Johnny Ward, something's got to give, because of sort of the coaching, the formation, which they've changed now in the last week, whether it's the manager, whether it's leadership among the players. Something's got to change, because it's Groundhog Day.
It's Groundhog Day, yeah, JD, exactly. I think they had 4 touches in the Manchester City box. It was very, very predictable what happened today. As Lauro said there, the Spurs game was a complete outlier in terms of how Man United have been playing. The 2 Atalanta games, the Liverpool game and other league games in the recent times, they've been very poor. And I thought against Atlanta during the week, it really summed up Man United at the moment, in that they were saved by Ronaldo in terms of how utterly brilliant he is inside the box. But at the same time, you could see that if you're playing Ronaldo 3 times in the space of a week in 3 very demanding games, it kind of smacks of desperation, because you don't do that with a 36-year-old striker, particularly when you're coming into a derby game involving a situation where you're not going to have the ball for much of it. And I think in the first 15, 20 minutes, Man United had, in the final third, I think they had about something like 5% of the time in the final third. This was a complete man against boys performance. And I don't think City were anywhere near their best. I think they were kind of, more or less in second or third gear throughout the game. Interestingly, afterwards as well, you're kind of looking for the reaction from the fans, because Manchester United fans have been amazingly loyal to managers, I think, in relative terms, since Alex Ferguson left. In general, they've given managers time. But you could sort of sense after the game that there was quite a bit of booing. It was an utterly insipid performance. And I think what's interesting as well is a lot of the whole Manchester United story of 2021 has been around nostalgia. Ronaldo coming back, Fergie having something of a role or not role in the background, and pining for the old days. This was utterly depressing. It was a game played at a stupid time, 12:30 on a Saturday. Derby game should not be played at 12:30 in the morning. There was absolutely no atmosphere. It sounded like a friendly game where everyone was bored. The game was over after 10 minutes, and it was a depressing experience from a Man United fan. And I don't really see Solskjaer surviving beyond Christmas, because at the moment they're not going anywhere. They're going backwards fast. And funny enough, JD, Solskjaer was actually well able to equip Man United in previous season to deal with Man City and to use pace on the break. Man United don't even have pace on the break anymore. They have Ronaldo up front, and they're relying on a guy who's 36. He's causing problems elsewhere, and they were insipid today. They were absolutely pathetic.
I get a lot of confusion when I look at Man United, Dan, whether it's the coaching. I don't know. I know you got Fermanagh, Kieran McKenna there with Michael Carrick, and you got Mike Phelan, and then you saw Solskjaer. I don't know from one week to the next what we're going to see. I love the chaos, I love the entertainment of it, but eventually it begins to get to a situation where they might not even get top 4.
Yeah, no, I mean, I suppose it is. I think that's probably well, if it looked like that wasn't going to be the case, if you could build up the body of evidence, you thought, well, this is definitely going to be an issue, then that's probably what would drive the change, because I think it's probably acknowledged that the Glazers and the ownership there, the sort of there's that vibe, isn't it, that they're just content enough once they're in the top 4. So if anything was going to really bring about a change, you would think it would be that being in threat. But I know what you're saying. Like, is this what's the cause? I mean, like, there has been an entertainment value to the games. As Johnny said today, it wasn't necessarily the case. It was over so early. Like, they got praise last week for going to Spurs and being quite compact and executing the job, and they sort of tried to do something similar today. But when you concede a goal from a cross after 5 minutes, then you're in real bother. And it was sort of almost a damage limitation exercise in parts. What was different between that and the Liverpool game? Well, they didn't go chasing it, so it didn't get opened up to the same degree, but it was almost as emphatic a defeat, really, in real terms. And I think, yeah, like, it's It's clearly, like, in these situations the manager eventually goes, because it's it's that whole thing of, do you change the players or do you change the manager? It's easier to change the manager if you think that you've assembled and you've spent a lot of money on assembling this squad of players. But you would have to say as well, like, even just the basic sort of application, just like the second goal, I think in particular, is one where if you're playing it that way against a team who's going to have a lot of the ball, they're going to try and get balls into the box, switch to play, and you're expecting a team to be alert and able to deal with that. And if you're being picked apart by a better side, you sort of, I think you'd want to be conceding goals of brilliance, when actually the 2 goals today were as much about the defending as they were about. I know that City just wear teams down because they keep it for so long and they force errors, and that's why things happen. Because you're second best for so long that eventually the concentration goes and those mistakes happen. But I don't know. It's entertaining to a point, and I'm sure there will be more chaos, but there's only so many times you can have this recurring discussion, like, that's the thing. I mean, it's not really a huge amount different to what we were saying 2 weeks ago, and probably even last week before the Spurs game. And yeah, I mean, look at Spurs since then have changed their manager and have a completely different club vibe.
The sun is shining now.
Yeah,
for
so
Tottenham, and
that's a slide. That's was that only 7 days ago?
Yeah, well, that's it. And thanks for that, Tottenham, last week for losing so badly. Patrick's been in touch on 53106. If Ollie has not been sacked up to this point, and doubt he will be, the powers that be have obviously decided to keep him until the end of the season. They must have someone else lined up, possibly Poch. I'm just thinking about the dressing room here, Mark Lawrenson. Ronaldo, Harry Maguire, all these players. Like, I know Pogba's not involved, but Bruno Fernandes. Like, what is the dressing room? Can they not just take this whole situation by the scruff of the neck, because United were just so listless?
Well, obviously not. It would appear that there's a lack of leaders in there, and one thing that, in fairness to Roy Keane, that he said before that we didn't have on the audio, was the fact that go and smash into somebody in the tackle. And I mean, Johnny's absolutely right that there's no atmosphere these lunchtime games. They're awful, they're horrible things to play, and everyone's still half asleep, including the players. But it's a derby. I didn't really see a foul where you thought, oh, he's really gone in there to give it to somebody. There was none of that, and it was almost like it was like Man United watching Man City paint pretty pictures all the way around them with the ball. And I think about the dressing room. I mean, Ronaldo, does he have his say? I would have thought so. But he will look upon it from his point of view in terms of, being a striker and getting the ball up to him. He'll be moaning like hell today because hardly had any chances whatsoever. Maguire, when he apologised after the Liverpool game, it was like a polite sort of, oh, we're really, really sorry. And, I mean, you can only go back to your own time and stuff like that. And if that would have happened to our Liverpool team in the mid-'80s when Souness was there, well, there'd have been scraps in the dressing room. There would have been an absolute ruction. We'd have closed the door, get rid of the management staff, and we'd have sorted it out. But it just doesn't happen that, John, anymore. And I'm loath to mention the money, but the money has got something to do with it, because you're basically making these guys absolutely, totally untouchable. And I thought the irony about today as well, when Van der Beek came on and did a couple of decent things, that the crowd went mad. It was like, where's this fella come from? We haven't seen him for such a long, long time. But the dressing room, really, in top sides, the dressing room sorts everything out. It sorts out problems on the pitch, problems off the pitch. I'm just going back to like the John Terrys at Chelsea. I would say.
But look at Liverpool now. Like in Liverpool now, Henderson, Milner, these types of characters.
All of them. All of Van Dijk will have his say. That the goalkeeper has his say, and all those kinds of things. And the great thing for a manager when that happens is it's like lighting the blue touch paper and just retiring a little bit and like thinking, go on then, because the other thing as well is as everybody knows now, if you're the manager and you slaughter one of your players, you get the agent onto you within the next 20 minutes about he's not very happy, he wants to leave and all that rubbish. But so it's very, very difficult. Klopp seems to have a way of doing it. I think Tuchel as well, it looks like he has. So, and Guardiola, the top, look, there's the thing. So Guardiola, Klopp, Tuchel, Solskjaer. I mean, you're talking about 3 absolutely top-class managers and a fella who's still learning his trade. And is an absolutely lovely, lovely bloke. But he's still learning his trade. Now, do you be the manager? I think he's coming up nearly 3 years at Manchester United, and you're still learning your trade and you spent hundreds of millions of pounds? I really, really don't get it. And I hate it when managers get sacked because it's really, really tough. But you just look at them now and you say they're an absolute total mess in the way they're set up. The way they're set up is just I just can't believe the way they're set up. They're just making it so easy for the opposition.
Let's hear from him now. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Very difficult to talk now, of course, because we started the game off badly, of course, passive, and when they get the first goal, it was always going to be a difficult game anyway. But of course, being 1-0 down was hard. David kept us in the game, some good stops, and then they scored the goals they always score. Cancelo cuts inside, cross-back stick, that we know that's going to happen, and it shouldn't happen.
You said we were so passive today. We spoke beforehand. The message was be on the front foot. We've got to get after them. What happened?
Yes. Well, they played well. Of course, they don't give you opportunities to win the ball off them. So some praise got to go to them as well. But of course, we were not at our level and standard. They need to be raised.
Particularly after the first goal, was there a nervousness about your players, a lack of confidence? Did that show?
Yeah, I think I think the whole place went a little bit. Of course, you're disappointed with the first goal, but we didn't play well up until then either, because we still don't trust ourselves with the ball. We still don't pass the ball as well as I know they can. So and we don't find the angles, and sometimes that is also the team you play against. As I say, they do press really well, and they made it hard for us, but we sometimes made the wrong solution, sometimes the right solution, but not the right execution.
Johnny, I was listening to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before the game talking about we're Man United, we're the big club in Manchester, and I'm hearing him now saying we don't trust ourselves with the ball. To me, Johnny, he's run out of answers.
Yeah, a long time ago probably. You know, I mean, I didn't hear the interview before the game, to be honest, but was anyone ever even remotely contemplating the concept of Manchester United being on the front foot against Man City? They're absolutely miles off them, and this has been evident in games against inferior opposition. Liverpool had them hit 4 in the first half or whatever. Since then they've kind of refined their system a bit, where he's probably sort of fallen on this 3 at the back to give a bit more sort of cover in areas where they're not completely brutally exposed. But you were looking at it today, they had 5 players. They were effectively playing something like I don't know, what would you say, 7-2-1 or something like that. So they had 5 defenders. The wing-backs were totally pushed back. The 2 sitting midfielders couldn't get on the ball at all. Ronaldo, again, obviously, and this was, the stats back this all up in recent years in Italy. If Ronaldo isn't in the box, he's not really going to be doing much because he's just not capable anymore. And he obviously struggled. So you take almost Ronaldo out of the game, apart from his one shot at goal, which I think was their only real chance in the game. So when you don't have the ball against the likes of Man City, and you have, like, effectively you're carrying a couple of players. Pogba obviously suspended today, but the likes of Ronaldo, it's very, very difficult. You're kind of playing with 10.5 players out of possession, if even that. And I think that was probably one of the concerns with Ronaldo. And maybe, the concept at the time, JD, was that this could be the signing that will be, Ronaldo signing his Solskjaer signing his effective death warrant, because he seemed to be under kind of pressure in some respects to sign Ronaldo. But if he does bring Ronaldo in and Ronaldo kind of has to play, that sort of flies in the face of the system that Man United had last season, when to my mind they had a pretty good season. They had an awful lot of pace on the break. and they were able to absorb pressure against the likes of Man City. Whereas now, today, the pattern of the game was set after 1 minute, where City got the ball and basically just had the ball for 90 minutes and were toying with Man United. And as Dan said there about the hierarchy in terms of how important is it for Manchester United to be winning things now? Who knows? But it is important, I think, that they get into the Champions League. And as it is now, there's absolutely no way they'll get into the Champions League the way they're playing, because the 3 teams ahead of them are certain to finish ahead of them. So they have to finish ahead of everyone else, including the resurgent Spurs, Arsenal, the likes of West Ham. And the way they're playing at the moment, with the Ronaldo situation as it is, they're going to be dropping points week to week. No question. And the issue for the manager who comes in is, how does he deal with Ronaldo? Because if you brought Klopp or Guardiola in as Manchester United manager tomorrow, Ronaldo would become the number one thing that you have to deal with, maybe then Pogba. But they can't play Ronaldo at this level regularly. And as much as he's doing well, they can't play him for it not to upset the balance of everything else. And you can see the confidence is basically draining out of all the other players.
53106, lots of texts coming in on Manchester United. I want to comment on the thank God United have Ronaldo narrative. He may be scoring, but it's at the expense of the other attacking players rather than adding to what they have. I can't think of another attacking player where that is the case, says Owen. Dressing room cannot sort out lack of a commanding presence in midfield. Being the problem the last decade, forget titles. If not for Ronaldo's goals, United would be out of the Champions League already, says Brian. Lads, embarrassing really. Also the fact of City not making a sub compounds terrible. The prolonged inevitable will have to be done. We love Ale, but, and once City go ahead, it's almost impossible to come back. They just keep the ball and pass you to death, says Pat. Ronaldo coming to Dublin on Thursday, of course.
Yeah, he is, yeah. I don't know, was it Johnny or Laura made a reference to him playing 3 games in a week? Maybe it was Johnny. Is thinking, is he going to be tired or fatigued coming Thursday? It's like, nah, I don't really think so. I think when it comes to playing for Portugal, or just Ronaldo in general, he'll be all right. I mean, it is sort of, you are watching that game there today, and you're looking at Cancelo on the left side and Bruno Fernandes, and you're sort
Bernardo
of thinking,
Silva.
Yeah, Bernardo Silva, of course, as well. And actually, like when you think about it, Ireland playing Portugal in Faro a couple of months back, like they did play similar system to what Manchester United played today. Got done by 2 crosses in the end, as it happened, but sort of actually kept them at arm's length for a long period of time, and actually it was actually the ability to be smart and break well, and realise that sort of Portugal were a little bit imbalanced, and Cancelo would bomb on and there was space behind it. They did all right with it, but he is going to be here on Thursday in a full stadium, but that'll be good. I'm sure we'll probably talk about that later on, probably in some shape or form. But when I was just looking at Manchester United's fixtures there long term, and I know they've like they've lost to Aston Villa this year, so you can't just look at the table and go, oh, they'll beat them. But you look at when you get out of this run, this run, like they've 3 away games in a week after the international break. It's Watford, Villarreal and Chelsea. Now you think playing away for them isn't such a bad thing in some respects at the moment. The 3 home games in a week, which is Arsenal, Crystal Palace and the Young Boys game. But you sort of look at their fixtures through December, January, like they actually don't play another top 4 team until they play City again on the 5th of March.
More false dawns ahead then.
Like there is the scope for that to happen. Like you look at their fixture list, it's not massively intimidating. Like they've lost some big games in recent times, but it's around March, April again where they almost have the return of all those fixtures. And actually in the sort of intervening period, there's a lot of games that again on paper and you're thinking, I mean, they're going to spend naturally because of the ability of the players. They're going to spend more time on the ball, more time around the box, more time for Ronaldo to do things, and possibly is going to create that sort of false dawn situation that it kicks the can down the road. It's what gets them to the end of the season, but doesn't necessarily get you out of this rut.
53106, McFred midfield not clearly good enough. There must be a Liverpool fan. Dave and Clare adds, great keep Ollie at the wheel. Lads, the end is surely now. No tactics, no game plan, no in-game management. Awful. Who do you see as a replacement realistically, asked David in Cork. Laro, if Solskjaer does go, who would United be best to snap up?
Well, unless they're going to go and actually buy a manager, John, who and where and what and how, who are you going to get? So, I mean, if who is there?
Brendan Rodgers?
Who?
Brendan Rodgers?
I wouldn't be the biggest fan of Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan knows.
Why not, Laura?
Say again.
Why not, Laura?
I think there's a little bit. There's no iron team for me. And would he be able to solve the problem? I'm not sure. I think he's at the right club for him, most definitely. I just don't see where they would go. I mean, if anybody at the moment, you'd want Moisey back, would you not?
Nah, come on, Lauro.
Well, no, I'm half joking, but what I'm saying is you'd have him back basically because he would sort all this out. I mean, he never really got the time there, and he never was going to get the time because he was the first one after.
But did he not have the gravitas? Was there a gravitas issue with Moyes and Man United?
No, I think the issues were that Vidic, within the second day, Vidic told him that he'd verbally agreed to go and play. I think it was in Italy. Evra was going as well, and Rio Ferdinand just said to him that he was struggling in terms of the pace of the game. So he lost three of the back four within 2 or 3 days. There was a little bit like, you know, you're coming from Everton and you're telling us how to play, but there always will be. But I just honestly don't know, John, who they would go and get. I really seriously don't.
Yeah, some people are texting in Eric Ten Hag, Luis Enrique, Pochettino. If PSG doesn't work out, and it might not, because if they don't win the Champions League.
Yeah, you take him, and I think he would definitely sort them out. He's obviously had a really good relationship with his players at Tottenham, and relative, because everything's relative, he did a good job, and he wouldn't be frightened of the fact that it's you know, the massive football club that Manchester United is. But it's a watch this space thing, because generally when you get the international window, it does give people at the football club a chance to have a little look round and think, well, you know, if we identified somebody and we could get him, he'll be here obviously before the end of the international games and stuff, and we'll have a few days to get used to the place, the people, all those kind of things, and to get on with the job. But I don't know, it just seems to go from bad to worse. I can't believe today with Manchester United, forget about all the stuff about, you know, the way they played insofar as technically and, you know, the way they were set up and all those kind of things. There was just no urgency. There was no, I said to you at the start, nobody wanted to rattle somebody, you know, and that's, if you're playing against somebody and basically they're taking the PISS out of you, which City did, you'd be rattling one or two people, you know, supposedly within the laws of the game, as it were. Even if you took a yellow, you'd do it. But it was it was a real after you, Claude, performance.
Chelsea 0, Burnley 0 in the Premier League. Kai Havertz has actually just gone into the crowd there. It looks pretty.
He was absolutely. He was running at full tilt, and you sort of got pushed, and the momentum took him properly into the crowd. More ferocity into the crowd than Eric Cantona back in the day. He just didn't mean to do it. But yeah, he looks pretty sore actually. It took him a while. They had to actually the fans had to shout to James Tarkowski, who wasn't the guy who pushed him, but to alert him to the fact that Havertz was still there, because he'd gone so far off the pitch, people had actually hadn't realised he was there. But yeah, quite gingerly getting himself up.
We had some Brentford 0, Norwich 2. Matthias Norman and Timo Pukki with a penalty. Norwich finally scoring some goals, and Brentford a little bit of a blip at the moment after their brilliant start to the Premier League season. It is also Crystal Palace 0, Wolves 0. Manchester City, by the way, folks, did win today. Let's hear now from their manager, Pep Guardiola.
Spoke to an understandably delighted Phil Foden. He felt that your team today played the game of their lives. What would you say?
He said?
They played the game of their lives.
More to come. He's so young. We will play more games of our life. Yeah, for our, you know, the City Blues. So we know, all of us, how important it is. Yeah, we had here in Old Trafford always made a good performance, and in general, since we are together, and we won many times, much more than Etihad Stadium. Yeah, solid performance and good game, deserved victory, and yeah, 3 more points.
That might be congratulations from City fans. You always want more, but how good were your team today?
Well, we spoke about, you know, it's a team, the transition team, and we thought we have to put the ball in the fridge. So a lot of passes, and in the last moment we arrived there, and after look the situations. We said if they jam to try to find and after contact with the wingers, but they didn't jam in the first half, a little more in the second one, but not much. And our players in the middle, and except 10 minutes the second half, and we lose stupid balls. The rest was really good.
How important was the movement of your players today?
Move the ball. Looks like it's the moving the players, but the move is the ball. That is the people believe, oh, how they move. No. But the move is the ball. Everybody has to be in the position. When you move much, it's not good.
Pep Guardiola there. Dan, Kai Havertz is okay now.
He's not just alive, he's just scored a goal with his head. Yeah, Chelsea have just, it's 33 minutes into this game, and as we know, sort of Burnley can be difficult to break down, but they've just moved the ball quickly, fashioning it out to Reece James, I think it was, on the right hand side. Really good sort of pacey cross, and Havertz has slipped between two defenders to glance it home. So I don't think it's the subject of VAR thing. I don't think he was offside. He was just straddled it there, but he was absolutely fine, I think, and it's 1-0. Yeah.
It's a bit like Alexander-Arnold and Robertson with Chelsea's wing backs at the moment, isn't it? Laro Chilwell and James scoring for fun, and another assist there for James.
Yeah, no, they look really, really good. And from England's point of view, they got an abundance of right backs, but they're very, very creative as well, both players. And England just seems to be able to breed kind of fullbacks for fun. And James, he's starting to score loads of goals, isn't he? I mean, what was Chilwell? Did he go 4 straight?
Yeah,
as
he
well?
did. Yeah.
As well, and when he looked as though he was a little bit of a nowhere man because he couldn't get in the team, so he's obviously been training hard, etc. Got his chance and taken it, and he's in for good for now. So, but that's what you get at the very top level, because there's probably at Chelsea. Well, there isn't. I'm not saying not probably. Every position has 2 players. And there's not much or too much difference between the quality of every single player for that position. So perfect, obviously, for Chelsea. I thought they might struggle a little bit today with Burnley, but obviously with them going 1-0 up, it may not be the case.
Guardiola, did you learn anything from watching City today? Like De Bruyne has been a little bit out of sorts because he's played a lot of games. He had that injury in the Champions League final and an ankle problem from the Euros. Did he do well today? How did they perform in general? Apart from United, we know how bad United were, but
well, the thing with these guys, De Bruyne basically was arguably probably the best midfield player in the world for a year, 2, maybe even 3. I know probably the boys will have a different take on that than me, but I just think he's brilliant. He sees things that other people don't see. And the thing is, John, when you're just 10% off, it's like, he's not the same. He's not doing this and he's not doing that, and all those kind of things. He's an unbelievable player, and I just say that if you said right tomorrow, if Guardiola says, you know what, he's for sale, De Bruyne, every single team, every top team in the world would take him in a heartbeat, because he just makes things happen. And he was very, very good today, and City were very, very good. But again, you've got to go back to Manchester United. They never laid a glove on anybody. All the game. I'm a big fan of De Bruyne. I just think he's absolutely fabulous. He's got to be the best passer in the Premier League. Got to be. As I said to you before, he sees passes where nobody else sees them. And by the way, he executes them as well.